What's up guys, it's Z here. Welcome back to Yu-Gi-Oh! Deck of the Day. Today we're doing the second deck that came out in Genesis Impact. We're profiling Evil Twins today. And I have to say that out of the three archetypes in the set, this is probably my personal favorite. I really like the concept behind it, and it feels very similar to Sky Striker. A link-based deck that is not meant to overpower your opponent, but it's meant to grind it out. So it's really fun. It's a fair version of Sky Striker basically. And I'm going to show you the deck that I have come up with. This is a pure version of the deck. I've seen a lot of Unchained things with this, but I feel like if you are committing a lot of stuff for the Unchained version, then you're losing in stuff like hand traps and other cards. So I really think the deck in pure version is much better. And there are a few cards that we haven't got yet. There's one card in Blazing Vortex that we're going to get soon, and there's also, I'm pretty sure there will be another version of this card in the next set after Blazing Vortex. So keep in mind that this deck is subject to change very soon, but for now this is the build that I've come up with, and I think it's the most optimal one. So before we begin, if you enjoy this video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss our upcoming content, and now let's get to the deck profile. So to start off with the monsters, we have 3 copies of Lightwing Kisekil. So Kisekil and Lila are basically the ones that give you access to your link monsters. So the live twins, when they're summoned and you control no other monsters, you can special summon the counterpart from the deck. It's very important that you don't control other monsters, so this deck unfortunately can run stuff like Nibiru, because if you've Nibiru'd your opponent and you have it on the field, then on the following turn you won't be able to use their effects. So you do lose out on this card, but there are other cards that you can use very consistently in the deck. And these cards do have extenders. They do not really rely on their normal summon that much, thankfully, because they do have a card that special summon from the deck, because if they didn't, they would be like a Zodiac deck without Barrage, so you would rely on this normal summon going through. So the deck is consistent and actually has ways of playing around disruption. 3 copies of Live Twin Lila. This is the counterpart. Kisekil summons Lila and Lila summons Kisekil when summoned, and these two monsters they're used to link summon, and then the link monsters give you the follow-up. 1 copy of Evil Twins Kisekil Lila. This is kind of disappointing, I would say, for a boss monster. This is why I just play only 1, because it's basically a monster that is unevenly matched, but instead of banishing cards, your opponent sends them to the grave and they have to keep 2 cards on the field. So unless your opponent has established an entire board and they don't have a way to disrupt this, then yes, you can actually be very damaging with this card. And it can be special summoned from the hand or grave by tributing 2 link monsters. So even if you have this in the grave, you can summon it over and over again. This is why I think 1 copy is perfectly fine. You also have a way to search this, so it's not like you will never see it. When you want to see it, you will see it. So this is why just 1 copy, and it's a brick because it's something that you don't want to see if your opponent doesn't have a lot of stuff on the field. Still, I wish it had more attack points or something, so it would actually be worth summoning, but 2200 attack is not the best. But it's a card you have to run just because it's something you can search. For the generic Cybers monsters, play 3 copies of Parallel Exceed. When you summon the link monsters, before they lock you into fiends, you can actually summon this, because in order to be locked into fiend monsters, you have to activate their effects. But when you link summon them, you can actually use Parallel Exceed, and before you start doing the rest of your link plays, you can actually use a rank 4. And this deck is really good at using Baguska. It's very similar to Salaman Great, because you use link monsters in order to be able to play, so you don't mind having a Baguska on the field. It will only hurt your opponent, so this is why I think Parallel Exceed is a really good thing. Just the link monsters, I don't think they're good enough to disrupt your opponent. They're basically just a Dryden during your opponent's turn if you just have the normal combo, so having extra stuff is very important. 1 copy of Backup Secretary. This is here because of Cyanide Mining. So when you've used your starter already, you don't really want to search another one with Cyanide Mining unless you want to have some follow-up for the 4-link turn. But having this 1 Backup Secretary in the deck can help you make the Link Devotee with a Link Disciple combo, so you can actually summon Masquerina. And Masquerina will help you summon Unchained Abomination during your opponent's turn, which is something that this deck abuses the hell out of, because it's a fiend monster, and it's a monster that's synergized with popping, so this deck pops 1 card on its own, then you can use Unchained Abomination to pop another card, so this is why it's really good. There's a monster we're expecting that's called Live Twin Lila Treat, so I'm pretty sure there will be a monster that will be called Live Twin Kisekil Trick, and these are basically the extenders. So when these 2 come out, you can special summon them by having the other counterpart of the field. So when these come out, I will probably cut Backup Secretary and play 1 of each, just because they're very specific extenders, but they are extenders, so you can search them with Cyanide Mining instead of having to rely on very generic Backup Secretary, because it doesn't give you the link plays. If your monster gets stopped and then you special summon Backup Secretary, you cannot do the Evil Twin combo, but you can do the Masquerina combo. For the hand traps, play 3 copies of Vast Blossom, 3 copies of Effect Veiler, and 3 copies of Gamma with 1 driver. Gamma is especially good in this deck. I particularly like Gamma in decks that you can resolve it during your own turn as well. This deck has 2 ways of actually activating something that can get asked or possibly be very tempting to negate without using a monster on the field. field. So this is why Gamma is really good. And I said that you don't have to control monsters in order to be able to use the Live Twins effect, but with Gamma you can summon Omega after you've used its effect, so it can take itself out of the field, so your Live Twins will still be live. For the spells, we have 3 copies of Live Twin Home. This is the extender of the deck. By discarding a card, you can special summon a Kisikil or Lila monster from your deck, and it locks you into Evil Twins for the rest of this turn, which is kind of the problem with this card, because if you have Parallel Exceed, then you will not be able to use it, but still it's something you have to play because you rely on your normal summon a lot. If it gets Ast or Veiler, then you don't have anything else to do. This card is also searchable with the next card I'm going to show you, so it's playing 6 copies, and it's also a quick play, so you can use it during your opponent's turn as well in case you draw multiples. 3 copies of Secret Password. This card searches any Live Twin or Evil Twin spell and trap from your deck to your hand, and if you control a Kisikil monster and a Lila monster, you can actually add a Evil Twin monster from your deck to your hand, so this is how you can actually add the boss monster without having to hard draw it. This is why I said just playing 1 is perfectly fine. And this searches your extender, and if you already have an extender, or if you don't need to have an extender because your plays went through, then you can actually add one of the trap cards to add more interruption on the top of your board. 3 copies of Signet Mining, along with the Live Twin extender spell. This is the other way that you can use Gamma during your own turn, because it's very tempting to cut to disrupt Signet Mining, so this is why Gamma is really good. And then you can actually search one of your starters if you don't have one, or you can search your backup secretary, so you can actually make your play even stronger. 2 copies of Pot of Avarice. This is a grindy deck that runs through its disruptions and its resources very, very fast. Even on turn 1, if you do the standard combo, you're forced to use 2 copies of Kisikil and 1 copy of Lila from your extra deck, so you can actually run out of resources really, really fast. So I think you have to play this card. The deck doesn't have a lot of beaters. Unless you summon Unchained Abomination on turn 1, you're not going to have a lot of pressure on the field, so this is why you need to spread the play around the game, so you need to be able to grind through the late game with this card. If you don't have it, you can actually maybe run something like Monster Reborn, but the problem with Monster Reborn is that yes, you can bring back the Link monster, and then the Link monster will bring back the other Link monster, but that's basically it, so you're just popping 1 card or drawing 1 card, so it's not really that optimal. This will recycle multiple Link monsters and will help you get one of your starters, so you can do the play all over again, while also having something for your next turn. 1 copy of Call by the Grave to make sure that plays go through, because sometimes you do not have the extender, sometimes you rely on this one normal summon going through, so you need to be able to stop that. And Gamma, unfortunately, if you start with one of the Live Twins, cannot protect you from any hand traps, but this card possibly can. For the traps, we have 2 copies of Evil Twin present. This is a Crackdown-like deck. If you have both Kisikil and Lila on the field, you can actually swap one of them to your opponent's field and take control of one of their monsters, or you can target a set spell tracker your opponent controls and shuffle into the deck. So this card is really good against backrow decks as well, which is something that this deck kind of struggles with. If you're playing against Altergeist and you have this card, then you can just spin around a card during the end phase. Unfortunately, it's not a continuous trap, which would have been much, much better, but still it's something that you can search with your Secret Password, so you can get more interruption. 1 copy of Evil Twin Challenge. This is Call by the Grave, Call of the Haunted, sorry. You can actually target a Kisikil or Lila monster in your grave, special summon it, then you can link summon with those monsters immediately. Sometimes you will not do that because you want to get the disruption effect, but if you want to go into an Unchained Abomination, then this effect is really, really good. So it's another one-off that you can search, so this is why I played. And the next card is probably the most hilarious change in a name that I've seen a card transferred from the OCG to the TCG. This card is called Evil Twin GG Is. This card is so funny. Just saying this name is so funny to me. This card was called Easy Game in the OCG, and Konami did a really good job on making this a joke for the TCG, so I just play 1 copy of this card. It's a continuous card that, if it wasn't searchable, I wouldn't consider playing it. It's not that good, but it's a continuous, so this is why it can get a lot of advantage. The problem with this card is that the effects are mediocre. So basically, with this card, you can tribute a Kisikil monster or a Lila monster to activate one of those 2 effects. You can target a Kisikil or Lila monster and it gains attack equal to the monster you tributed. So at best case scenario, you can tribute the boss monster to boost another monster by 22, so you can get a 33 monster, but usually you will be tributing one of the Link monsters to get the other one to 22, and then you will use the other Link monster's effect to bring the monster you tributed back on the field. It also has an effect that would negate any card effect that would destroy a card, so basically like a Starlight Road, which is not bad. Sometimes your opponent will Lightning Storm your back row and you really rely on your back row, so this can help you get around that. And if you have challenge face down as well, then you can bring back the monster you tributed, so it's not really that big of a cost. And yep, this card, just because it's searchable, it's fine to have in the deck for the additional option, but usually it's not something you will search too early unless you have everything else in your hand. So usually you will be searching present, but if you already have present and you don't need challenge, then this is the other thing you can search. And 3 copies of Infinite Impermanence, rounding out the total of the hand traps to 12, because like I said, this deck is very grindy. You need to be able to disrupt your opponent's plays, and it doesn't have enough disruptions on its own, so you need to use hand traps in order to minimize their plays. For the extra deck, we have 3 copies of Evil Twin Kisikil. So the Link monster monsters, they require the live twin counterpart and any other monster. So if this card is special summoned, you can draw a card if you control a Lila monster. The other one, when it's summoned, you can destroy a card. So you use these effects a lot, and they have a quick effect that if you do not control the other counterpart, you can special summon a Lila monster from your grave, and this locks you from the extra deck into Fiend monsters. So before you use any of these effects, if you have Parallel Exceed, you want to use that so you can go into a rank 4, and then during your own turn, during your opponent's turn, you want to be using this to bring back the other monsters. So during your own turn, you want to be summoning Kisikil with Lila's effect to draw cards, and during your opponent's turn, you want to be summoning Lila with Kisikil's effect to pop your opponent's cards. You can actually summon Lila during your own turn to pop something if your opponent has committed to the board, which is very fine. So this is the basic play of the deck. You just loop around these two monsters. 3 copies of Evil Twin Lila. Like I said, this is the one that pops monsters. When it's summoned, you control a Kisikil monster, and it has the same effect that if you do not control a Kisikil monster, during the main phase as a quick effect, you can special summon a Kisikil monster from your grave, and it locks you into Fiends from the extra deck. For the rest of the extra deck, we have 1 copy of Link Disciple, 1 copy of Link Devotee. These two go in tandem. When you play one, you play the other, and if you play Cybers, this is a really good combo to have because it helps you cycle through 1 card. So if you have something that you don't really want in your hand, maybe you have the driver in your hand, you can draw a card and then put the driver back into the deck, and it gives you tokens, so you can summon Masquerena, and this Masquerena will either go into Abomination during your opponent's turn to get more disruption, or it can go into Unicorn to basically disrupt your opponent this way if you do not have the full combo with the live twins. 1 Masquerena, you can summon her with a Cybers combo. For the Nightmares, play 1 Phoenix and 1 Unicorn. These are really good because they're Fiend monsters, so even if you're locked out with the Evil Twins effect, you can still go to them, so this is why I think these cards are really, really good. And the last Link monster is Unchained Abomination. This card was great for this deck. It's better in this deck than it is for Unchained because you can actually summon this very easily, and then when you use Lila's effect to pop cards, then you can pop more cards, so this card can clear boards very, very consistently. I play 1 copy of Omega. Like I said, this is the only level 8 you can play because, yes, you can play stuff like Draco Berserker, but Draco Berserker will lock you from the live twins because it cannot get itself out of the field. So if you're used to use Gamma during your own turn, then you need to summon this in order to get itself out of the field so you can have the live twins be live, so you can actually special summon the other one from the deck. And then this card can keep coming back to give you more advantage. And for the rank 4 monster, play 1 Baguska. This is really good in this deck because it's a Salamangreat effect, like you don't care about having after turn 1 your plays, just your Link plays, so the main deck doesn't really matter. And 1 copy of Abyss Dweller because this card's auto-win against some decks. So yep, that's the deck, guys. This deck can only get better. I'm pretty sure it's going to get more support eventually because it's probably the only one of those decks that doesn't really have... It only has got 1 new card after this set that has been announced, so we're going to get more stuff eventually. And hopefully it can come a lot better because right now I think Drytron is the best deck out of this set, so I'm hoping this deck can get more love eventually. So yep, that's the deck, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss our upcoming videos, and we'll see you next time.